I'm Marjorie, 76 years old now, and I can still hear the sound that started it, all the clean little beep of a keypad. The kind you'd expect on a storage unit or a pharmacy cabinet in a hospital. Not in a family kitchen where a mother once warmed milk for a feverish child. That beep didn't just lock a refrigerator. It locked a story shut and dared me to starve inside it. Mother's Day was coming. The ads were everywhere: pink flowers, syrupy songs, bright-faced daughters clutching coffee and bouquets like they'd invented love. I watched those commercials from the corner of a guest room bed that wasn't mine, in a house that never truly became mine, and I felt something hollow bloom behind my ribs. Not jealousy. Not even sadness yet. Something quieter. The kind of emptiness that shows you, with brutal clarity, what you've become in someone else's life. I used to be a woman with a key ring. I had a key for everything: front door, back door, mailbox, sewing cabinet, the little padlock on the shed where my husband kept his tools. I had a key for our life. I was the kind of woman who knew where the extra batteries were, and which drawer held the good tape, and how long to boil the water so the tea tasted like comfort and not like surrender. Then I slipped in my own hallway one rainy afternoon, my foot catching on the edge of an old rug, my hip cracking like a dry branch. It's funny what the body can do. 1 second you're thinking about soup, the next you're staring at the ceiling and hearing yourself make sounds you didn't know you were capable of. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and impatience. The rehab center smelled like boiled vegetables and resignation. And my daughter, Elaine, smelled like perfume and duty when she visited. Sharp, expensive, brisk. She brought clipboards and decisions. She spoke in sentences with no softness in them. Mom, you can't live alone now. It's not safe. You'll move in with me and Derek. We have the space. She said we like she was generous. Like she was saving me. I believed her. That's the part I'm still ashamed of. I believed my own child's voice when it said the words that fit the story I wanted. A mother always wants to believe she'll be held gently when she finally gets tired. Elaine's house sits in a neat little neighborhood where the lawns are trimmed to the same length and the mailboxes all match, like the street is wearing a uniform. The inside is beautiful, if you like beauty that never gets touched. Light wood, white walls, a kitchen that looks like it's waiting for photographs more than it's waiting for food. Every surface polished, every corner staged. The kind of home where you feel like you're not allowed to breathe too hard. They put me in the guest room. Just for now, Elaine said. Until you're stronger. The guest room had gray curtains and a bed that squeaked if I shifted my weight. It had a dresser with empty drawers and no pictures on the walls, as if the room itself didn't want to remember anyone. I brought my own things in small waves: a cardigan, my Bible, the framed photo of my husband Walter in his work shirt, smiling like the world hadn't yet taken him away. Elaine looked at that picture once, quickly, like it stung. Derek was always polite in that way. Men can be polite when they don't care. He'd nod at me from behind his laptop. He worked in finance, always talking about projections, rates, markets. He looked at life like it was a spreadsheet and people were line items that had to justify their existence. At first, I tried to be easy. I tried to be grateful. I tried to be small. I offered Elaine part of my pension. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and it felt like dignity to put it on the table. She waved it off the way you wave off a buzzing fly. It's fine, Mom. We'll handle it. But then Derek started reviewing expenses. He'd sit at the kitchen island, with his laptop open like a judge's bench. Elaine would stand beside him, sipping sparkling water, nodding along as if he was giving a sermon. Your medications, Derek would say, tapping the screen. These copays are substantial. He said substantial, the way someone says infestation. We need to streamline, he'd add, like my lungs were a luxury, and my heart was an optional upgrade. And Elaine, my daughter, who used to cry if I left her at daycare 5 minutes late, would look at me with a tired face and say, "He's right, Mom, we have to be realistic." Realistic. That word became their favorite. They used it like a broom to sweep away whatever tenderness was trying to survive. I started feeling like a guest who'd overstayed the welcome in a hotel she used to own. The first time I noticed the food changing, I told myself I was imagining it. The pantry used to be full. Not just full bright. Boxes of cereal, jars of peanut butter, flour, sugar, pasta, spices. Things you could build life from. Then, slowly, it thinned out around me. The things I liked disappeared first. The oatmeal I used to make with raisins and cinnamon. The soup I'd sip at night when my chest felt tight. Even the little crackers I kept for nausea. Elaine would say, "Oh, we're just eating cleaner now." Cleaner, like the food I loved was dirty. Then one Tuesday, I walked into the kitchen in my sock feet, my walker clicking softly, and I saw the locks. 2 small gray boxes with glossy number pads. One fixed to the refrigerator handle, the other to the pantry door. The pads blinked like tiny eyes. On each one, a sticker bright red, cheerful font. Like a child's toy. Family only. I stood there so long, my tea went cold in my hand. My mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. Because my brain couldn't find a sentence that made sense of what my eyes were seeing. Elaine was leaning against the counter scrolling her phone. Derek was at the island, typing. What is that? I finally managed. Elaine didn't even look up. It's just a lock, Mom. A lock, I repeated, as if the word might change if I said it again. Derek's eyes flicked to me. Cold, assessing. It's to manage waste. Waste. My voice sounded thin. Elaine sighed like I'd asked her to explain the internet. Groceries cost money, Mom. We can't have things disappearing. Disappearing, I whispered. What things are disappearing? Derek shut his laptop with a soft snap, the way you close a coffin lid. Earn your keep, Marjorie. That's all it is. You eat our food. You use our electricity. This is a system. Contributing members have access. Contributing members. I felt my face heat with shame so sudden it was like being slapped. Not because I agreed with him. Because my body, old and trained in survival, still wanted to appease the people who controlled the room. Elaine's eyes finally lifted to mine. Not loving, not even angry, just irritated. Like I was a delayed flight announcement. Mom, don't make this dramatic, she said. We'll get you what you need. And that's how she turned hunger into a favor. That night, I lay in bed listening to the house settle. The HVAC whispered. The refrigerator hummed like a private club I'd been banned from. Somewhere down the hall, Elaine laughed at something on TV. And the sound of it hit me like a memory. Her laugh used to bounce off my own kitchen walls when she was a teenager. Now it belonged to a house that had locked me out. I didn't sleep much. I kept seeing the red sticker in my mind. Family only. The next day, Elaine gave me a bowl of oatmeal. Plain watery. No raisins, no cinnamon. Here, she said brightly. I made sure you got something. Made sure. Like feeding your mother is a task you check off. I ate it slowly in my room with the door half shut. The oatmeal had the texture of apology without the taste, and I started doing something I hadn't done in years. I started keeping a ledger. Not because I wanted revenge. Not yet. Because something inside me, some stubborn, ancient part stood up and refused to vanish without a record. In my bedside drawer, under my socks, I kept a small spiral notebook, the kind you'd buy for a grocery list. I wrote the date. I wrote the time. I wrote what she said, what he said, how the lock beeped when it clicked shut. I wrote like my life depended on it, because I was beginning to understand that it might. The first real terror came on a night when Mother's Day banners were already hanging in stores. I woke up coughing. Not a normal coffee and asthmatic choke, the kind that tightens your chest like a fist. My lungs felt like they were full of hot sand. I reached for my rescue inhaler. It wasn't in my nightstand. I remembered dimly putting my handbag in the pantry earlier that day because Elaine said my purse cluttered the entryway. The pantry. I sat up too fast and the room swayed. I grabbed my walker and shuffled into the hallway. My breath already turning into shallow, panicked sips. The kitchen was dark, except for the digital clock on the oven. I could see the outline of the pantry door. I pulled it open, it didn't open. The lock blinked. I stared at it, blinking back tears I didn't have time for. I tried my birthday. Wrong. I tried Elaine's wrong. I tried Walter's birthday, like a prayer. Wrong. The lock flashed a small red word, denied. My breath was getting louder, uglier. The sound of my own wheezing filled the kitchen like an alarm that only I could hear. Elaine, I tried to call, but it came out as a rasp. Elaine, nothing. I pounded the door once with the side of my fist, weak, pathetic. My knees shook. The walker trembled under my hands. I slid down the pantry door until I was sitting on the cold tile floor. The lock blinking above me like an indifferent star. There are moments in old age when you realize how thin the line is between being alive and being gone, and there, on that floor, I understood something that turned my fear into ice. They hadn't just locked away food, they had locked away access. They had put my life behind a code. I don't know how long I sat there. Time becomes strange when you can't breathe. It stretches and snaps. I remember actually crawling back to my room with my palms scraping carpet fibers. I remember fumbling through my travel case like a thief. I found an old inhaler in the bottom, nearly empty. I took a puff that tasted like dust and salvation. It didn't fix everything. It just kept me from dying. I lay in bed afterward, shaking, staring at the ceiling. And a thought came with absolute clarity. If I die in this house, they will call it complications. They will say she was frail. They will cry in public with clean faces. And no one will know about the lock. The next morning, Elaine stood in my doorway with her arms folded. "Good grief, Mom," she said. "You look awful. You didn't have one of your spells again, did you?" My spells, as if my lungs were theatrical. I couldn't get to my inhaler, I whispered. My throat still burned. Elaine's eyes narrowed, then slid away. "Well, you need to be more organized." More organized. I stared at her, at my own child, and something inside me moved, slow and heavy, like a door opening that had been shut for decades. Not rage yet, not even anger, a decision. I became quiet after that, quiet in the way a storm becomes quiet right before it breaks. Elaine liked my quiet. Derek loved it. My silence made them comfortable. They started treating me like furniture again, an inconvenience they could ignore once it stopped making noise. Elaine rationed my food like she was handing out medication. 1 packet of oatmeal a day, sometimes an apple, if she was feeling generous. She'd unlock the pantry with quick fingers, retrieve what she considered acceptable for me, then lock it again. Beep, click, beep, click. It became the soundtrack of my humiliation. Mother's Day got closer. Elaine started planning brunch with Derek's mother, Lynette, who lived across town and wore pearls even at noon. I heard Elaine on the phone laughing in the kitchen. "Oh, of course, we're doing something special," she said. "Derek made reservations. It'll be lovely. Lovely. For everyone but the mother sleeping down the hall." One afternoon, a delivery came while Elaine and Derek were out. A large insulated box from some gourmet meal company, the kind with glossy pictures and fancy ingredients. The driver read the name on the label and held it toward me. "Delivery for Elaine," he said. I should have refused it. I should have waited. But hunger does something terrible to pride. It turns you into someone you don't recognize. I took the box inside, my hands trembling as if it weighed more than food. It smelled like lemon zest and expensive butter even through the packaging. The receipt was taped on top. Paid in full. Payment method, my card. My debit card. The one Elaine had helped me set up years ago, when online banking got confusing and I trusted my daughter. Like a person trusts gravity. The room swam. So that's what this was. Not just cruelty, theft. She was locking me out of food while using my money to feed herself like royalty. I slid the receipt into my Bible, where she would never look. That felt like the most bitter irony in the world, hiding evidence in scripture because your own daughter has made you afraid. When Elaine came home, I waited until she set her purse down, until she was comfortable, until she thought she was safe. "Elaine," I said softly. She turned, already annoyed. "What now?" "A delivery came," I told her. "A meal kit. It says it was charged to my card." For 1 second, one small, precious second, I saw fear flicker behind her eyes. Then it hardened into something ugly and sharp. "What were you doing going through my mail?" she snapped. "It was on the box," I whispered. She stepped closer, her voice dropping low. "Stop snooping, Mom. You're a burden in this house. You should be grateful we even let you stay." Burden. The word hit like a stone to the chest. And right behind it came the strangest feeling. Relief. Because now I knew. Now the story had a name. Now it wasn't me being sensitive, me being dramatic, me being old and confused. Now it was clear. And clear things can be handled. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't pray for her to become kind again. I didn't bargain with God the way mothers do when they're desperate. I wrote, date, time, delivery, my card, her words, and then, near midnight, when the house was quiet and the locks were resting like sleeping snakes, I heard the printer whir in Derek's office down the hall. A small sound, easy to miss, but I've lived long enough to recognize the sounds that matter. The next morning, the doorbell rang. Elaine was at work. Derek opened it. A man in a crisp suit stood on the porch holding an envelope. "I'm looking for Mrs. Marjorie Hale," he said. "My maiden name. Used in official documents." Derek glanced at me like I was a problem he didn't want to carry. I stepped forward and took the envelope with hands that did not shake. My heart was steady in a way it hadn't been in months. Inside was a letter from my bank. A formal notice, it said, in calm professional language, that a durable power of attorney had been filed. Elaine, authority over my pension account. A power of attorney I had never signed. The paper felt cold, heavy, like a new kind of gravity. Forgery, not just my card. Not just a little theft to fund fancy dinners. She had reached for the whole foundation. The pension my Walter and I built in small, honest bricks. I sat down on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall for a long time. The room smelled like lavender detergent and betrayal. My palms were damp, but my mind was suddenly sharp as winter air. They thought my old age had made me helpless. They thought a lock could make me quiet forever. They didn't know about the ledger. They didn't know about the small credit union account I'd kept for years, the one Walter insisted on when he said, "A woman should always have a little something that stays hers." They didn't know about my friend Ruth from church, who ran that credit union now, who had once held my hand at Walter's funeral and whispered, "If you ever need me, you call." And they didn't know that Mother's Day was coming, a day made for honoring mothers, and that the universe has a way of balancing its own books when you finally hand it the receipts. I folded the bank letter carefully. I slid it into my Bible behind the receipt. I opened my notebook and wrote one simple line, slower than the others. "They've taken the key to my money, so I'm going to take the key to my silence." Then I sat very still and listened to the house. The refrigerator hummed behind its lock. The pantry door waited with its blinking pad. Somewhere in the distance, a lawnmower droned like ordinary life. And inside me, something ancient and maternal rose up, not soft, not pleading, not love as surrender, love as survival. If Elaine wanted to turn Mother's Day into a performance, I would let her. I would let her put on her pretty dress. I would let her smile for photos. I would let her pretend she was a good daughter. And while she posed with flowers and pancakes and fake gratitude, I would be doing what mothers have always done. When their children wander into darkness, I would be preparing. Quietly, carefully, legally, because the next time that keypad beeped, it wouldn't be locking me out, it would be counting down to the moment her whole world learned what hunger feels like, when you create it in someone else. And I was done being the one who begged. I waited. That was the hardest part. Not the hunger, not even the fear. Waiting without letting my face betray what my heart had already decided. I moved through the house like a shadow, quiet, obedient, exactly the way they expected an old woman to be. They mistook my silence for weakness. They were wrong. On Mother's Day morning, the house smelled like perfume and coffee I wasn't allowed to touch. Elaine passed my doorway in a pale blue dress, already holding her phone. "Already gone. We'll be back later," she said. "Try not to overdo it." Overdo what? I wondered. Breathing. The door closed. The locks beeped. And I picked up the phone by noon. The consequences were already in motion. Quietly, properly. By the time Elaine lifted her glass at brunch, her cards had stopped working. When she came home, she didn't knock. She burst in, demanding answers. I protected myself. I said, that was all. I told them about the locks, the rationing, the inhaler, the forged signature, and the ledger. That was when Elaine finally went still. 2 weeks later, I moved out. In daylight. With help. With my dignity intact. I moved into a small apartment where the windows faced east and no pantry had a lock. That first night, I made oatmeal the way I liked Etriol oats, raisins, cinnamon, and I cried while it cooked, not from sadness, from freedom. Mother's Day came again, the next year. No flowers. No call. And I was all right. Because I learned something no card ever teaches you. Motherhood is not starvation, love is not erasure, and survival is not betrayal. I am 76 now. I still keep my ledger, mostly blank, not from fear, but from memory. I remember who I am. A woman with keys. A woman with breath. A woman who learned, late but not too late, that dignity is not given, it is taken back. Quietly, carefully, without asking permission.